Okay, we are here growing a lean business with smart tech. Let's see how many how many do we have in the chat session. Let's see. All right, so that we'll be starting by 10 a.m. sharp. 10 a.m. sharp. So this is 9:58 West African time. 9:58. So start by 10 a.m. sharp. All right. All right. If you are here live, can you just indicate in the chat section? Let me know if I'm clear, if everyone can hear me. Just indicate in the chat section so I'll know everyone can hear me. All right. Well, this is 10 o'clock, and from my end, it seems the audio is good, everything is fine. So I will just go ahead and start the webinar. Now, as the title implies, growing a lean business with smart tech. Growing a lean business with smart tech. Before we proceed, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Osahenrumwen Aigbogun. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Osai Technologies Limited. Osai Technologies is a software development company that specializes in building custom software for businesses and enterprises. All right, so let's just go right in. Growing a lean business with smart tech. Now, when you see a topic like this, the very first thing that comes to your mind is what what is lean? What is lean doing in this sentence? So the very first thing we need to do is define what we mean by lean. So what does it mean to be lean? Depending on the part of the world you are, depending on the context in which you use the word lean, you might get different definitions. However, in this context, when we say lean, oh, my background is showing a buffalo. When we say lean, we're talking of something slim, eliminating waste or unnecessary processes or procedures. Eliminating waste or unnecessary processes or procedures to maximize value. So this is the phrase: eliminate waste, maximize value. So this is what we mean by lean. So this means that in the context of a business, it means that you as a business owner or as a business entity, you identify things that are not necessary in your business, eliminate them, and amplify things that are necessary, things that give value to your customers. So this is what we mean by lean. Eliminate waste, maximize value. Now, On the same topic, we have smart tech because the topic is growing a lean business with smart tech. Growing a lean business with smart tech. So now we've identified lean. Let's go ahead and identify smart tech because it's very easy to say, what is the meaning of smart tech? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense. What do we think smart tech is? Well, generally speaking, when you hear the word smart tech, it basically means devices that have some sort of chipsets that enable those devices to communicate with other devices, basically. So, smart tech is a device that is aware of itself and aware of other techs or its surrounding. Let's put it that way. So, that's basically what it means. However, in this context, what we mean by smart tech is this tech that helps achieve leanness. Tech that helps achieve leanness. So we've already identified the fact that leanness is eliminating waste and maximizing value. So there are multiple ways to do it, but in this webinar, we are going to talk about how to do it through technology. Now, we as a business entity, it is very easy for you to fall into the trap of implementing so much processes, implementing so much structure to the extent that you have a bloated system. When we say a bloated system, for example, just to take a singular decision as a business. Okay, in this month, as a business, let's say for example, you are a financial service business and you want to promote yourself on social media, but because of the structure in place, before that decision can be taken, it has to go through multiple layers, multiple levels of approval and decisions before that singular action can take place. When you have a situation like that, your business is certainly not lean. So that's what we mean here now. And when we use smart tech to achieve leanness, decisions like that will probably take multiple weeks to be executed. We can use tools to get all the parties involved to basically look at this decision in real time, then take an informed action, take an action that can make the business execute that plan as soon as possible. Because one of the things that can cripple a business is sluggishness. Now, let's move on to the next slide. We have growing a lean business. Let me quickly check if we have anybody on chat. If you're just joining us, just drop a message, say hi or something, so we can know that you are here. And if you cannot hear me at any point in time, please drop a message so we can modify that, we can fix that. Now, growing a lean business. Growing a lean business. Underneath, we have eliminating waste and maximizing value. So that has been the undertone of this entire webinar so far. Eliminating waste, maximizing value. Now, what comes to mind when you are growing a business? As a founder or as a business owner, you always want your business to grow and grow and grow. And if you are the type that have an MBA or you've gathered knowledge here and there about business, or you've taken advice, or you have someone in your team that is business inclined, that has the necessary business acumen, to run your business. They will most likely suggest certain things that appear nice, but are not necessarily what you need for that current stage of your business. This is what I mean. For example, you are starting a business today and you are building that business around a product. Let's use our company of Osai Technologies as an example. You are starting a software development company and you want to build a product for businesses. Let's say a time tracker product. Now you have identified various components for time tracking as a product that tracks how long employees spend working. So clock in, clock out, and all that. Now, it is very, very tempting to get multiple developers, designers, a project manager, HR. I mean, you have developers working on the product, you have a designer designing the product, you have a project manager managing all of them, you have a HR managing product manager and every other person. Then you probably say, okay, I want this product. I want the world to know that we are working on this project. So you get social media managers. As time goes on, you realize that you have anywhere between 5 to 10 employees working on this product that has not generated a single revenue. A single revenue. And if if your business, if you are bootstrapping, it means you are probably financing this business from your pocket. It means you are probably financing this business from your pocket. And even if you are not bootstrapping, let's say you are venture backed or you raised some funds, it's only a matter of time, because it is one thing to have a product in development, it's another thing for the product to be out in the market, it's another thing for the product to be making money while it's in the market. So before you move from level 1 all the way to level 7, you need to identify some of these things we are highlighting in this webinar. Now, when we say waste, because we've talked about eliminating waste and maximizing value, when we say waste, what do we mean precisely? So, in a nutshell, waste is anything that does not add value to the customer. Waste is anything that does not add value to the customer. So, using that same example of just now, the time tracking product, the customer doesn't care if you have 5 developers. The customer doesn't care if you have 2 designers. The customer does not care if you have a project manager. The only thing the customer is interested in is, this is the product. This is what you said is doing. Is it doing it? So anything that does not directly contribute to the success, or anything that does not contribute, let me not use the word directly, anything that does not contribute to the success or does not add value to the customer in this line is a waste. Now let's move on to, now that we've understood what wastes are, let's move on to the classes of waste, because we have 2 classes of waste. And okay, well, I will add more context to this. So we have 2 classes of waste, and you see I put in quotes there, muda. Muda is Japanese for waste. The reason I use the word muda is because this whole concept, this lean business, is not foreign, it's not new. It's a matter of fact. If you go online and make your research, you discover that there is a book by Eric Dreas called The Lean Startup. And that book drew inspiration from the Toyota Production System, TPS. And the Toyota Production System comes from where? Japan. Because Toyota is from Japan. Hence the word Muda. That's why the word Muda is there, because this is a system that was developed by Toyota, and that's why we have the word Muda there. So we have two classes of wastes. Now, as we said in the previous slide, anything that does not add value to the customer is considered waste. Anything that does not add value to the customer is considered a waste. So let's see the two classes of waste we have. Class one, we have the necessary waste. The necessary waste. Now let's add a little bit of context to this. So when we say necessary waste, what comes to mind? Is it a waste that is necessary? Yes. But the truth is, this necessary waste is different per business. Now, a production company, I mean, going back to the root of this concept, this Toyota production system, this TPS, which is carrying this entire concept. A production company, a company that produces maybe cars or any other product, that company must undergo safety checks, to ensure that the environment is safe for its workers. However, your customer is not interested in the fact that your environment is safe for your workers to work. Your customer is interested in driving a Toyota Camry or a Toyota Corolla. I'm just naming Toyota vehicles since we are talking about Toyota. Your customer is not interested in the fact that your production space is big or small. Customer is not interested in the fact that you have lights. So, from our definition, anything that does not add value to the customer is considered a waste, right? However, there are necessary wastes, because if your environment is not safe for your workers, you have no worker, or your workers will call in sick, or they keep falling sick all the time. It can even lead to death. We've seen funny some funny news online. We've even, as a matter of fact, it is on record that Amazon is a very, Amazon experiences accidents every now and then in their fulfillment centers, specifically because of this safety issue. And they've been putting factors in place, to be fair. However, I digress. I digress. So, safety check is necessary to ensure that the environment is conducive for the workers. However, it doesn't add anything to the customer directly. So, when we are eliminating waste, this is not the kind of waste you eliminate, because there are some, I don't think there's any country that do not have safety regulations for production. If there is, it's very few. So that is necessary. However, it is still a waste. Now, like I said, this is different per business. So you should be able to look at your business, identify the necessary waste, and keep it in one box. Now let's move on to the second class, which is unnecessary wastes. Unnecessary waste. This one is quite common. It is it is very plenty. As a matter of fact, in the original concept of these Toyota production systems, we have 7 types of this unnecessary waste. So We have overproduction. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Yes, we have overproduction. Now, I don't want to go too deep into the concepts so that we don't stray away from our subject matter. So we have overproduction, we have overprocessing, we have waiting, we have movement, we have transportation, we have inventory, we have manufacturing defective parts. I think that's about seven now. We have waiting as well. So overproduction, waiting, movement, overprocessing, transportation, manufacturing defective parts, and inventory. Yeah, inventory. So that's seven, about seven of them. So that's for the Toyota production system. However, you as a business, you should be able to identify. That's one of the that's one of the core principles backing this lean business mentality or this lean business mindset. You should be able to self-reflect. You should be able to look at your business and say, this we can do without this, we can do without this, we can do without that. So using the same example, same production company, Toyota, if the demand for, let's say, a Toyota Corolla is, say, 10 million, and Toyota ends up producing 20 million, they have extra 10 million of waste. So let's say 10 million people buy 10 million cars. What are they going to do with the extra 10 million? It's just waste. So you need to be able to identify things that cost. Okay, let's put it this way: only produce what customers want. Only produce what customers want. If we want to apply this to the concept of software development, it means do not create features that customers do not ask for. Do not create features that customers did not ask for. Now you have your wonderful product, the time tracking product that we used earlier. You have your wonderful product, it's tracking the time, customers are enjoying it. Then all of a sudden you decide to shove in AI because AI is trending. Before you know it, customers start complaining. The product is slower. Every time I'm seeing AI popping up, popping up. I don't need this. I just want to see the time my employees come in. I want to see how long they are working. I want to see when they checked out, when they signed out. Don't give me this AI thing. So these are things that you should identify as a business owner. Processes as well. The CEO will there are some companies that have what we call hierarchy. So operations officer, um, maybe financial officer, and all that, different officers. So one we approve, take it to the next person will approve, take it to the next person, approve, all the way till it gets to the top for taking a decision. Yeah, there are some decisions that do not have to go all the way up the chain. This should be identified as a business and eliminated. Now, this other one, meetings, is quite common amongst, in fact, it's common amongst all business, even startups. I wanted to remove startups, but it's common amongst all business, which is having meetings upon meetings upon meetings, especially when a startup discover agile methodology. Anyways, that's a topic for another day. So when new knowledge comes in and the business wants to apply it, you discover that there are unnecessary meetings, there are meetings to talk about other meetings. All these wastes should be identified and eliminated. These are unnecessary wastes. These are unnecessary wastes. So, as a business, you should be able to identify them and eliminate them. Now, there are multiple ways to do this. Self reflection. is one way. Another way is to use the smart tech that we keep talking about in this webinar. So, how do you amplify growth with smart tech? Because the truth is, when you eliminate waste and you maximize value, it automatically leads to growth. As one of the reasons why Toyota has been the most the most sorted out car production company in the world for years. So now, how do you amplify growth with smart tech? We'll first talk about the principles, then we'll talk about how we apply smart tech to it. Now, the principles, first of all, that leads to growth using this lean mindset is number one, quality assurance on all levels. Quality assurance on all levels. Businesses are fond of breaking things into phases. This is quite common even in the tech world. You have the requirements gathering phase, you have the design phase, you have the development phase, and you have the quality assurance phase. But you see, when you are using a lean mindset states that in every single phase, ensure that there are no defects, ensure that quality is assured. There are no defects and quality is assured at every given point in time. Because, and the interesting thing is, these principles, you can apply it to your life, not just business. You can apply it to your life. Well, let's just stick to the subject matter. At every point in time, quality assurance. When you are gathering requirements, don't gather unnecessary things. Gather what is within the scope of the product or the project you are working on. Do the filtration and everything. Do feasibility studies right there and ensure that everything meets the standard that you as a business is trying to attain right from your requirements. In your design phase, that's for businesses that break all these things into phases. There are some businesses that do everything is intertwined. You call it the spike model. There are some businesses that do waterfall. That's another concept. So, in your requirement phase, quality assurance. In your design phase, if there is any issue with design, tackle it right there. Don't wait till you get to development phase because it is very easy to, even we've done that. It's very easy to say, oh, you know what? Just design the basic things. When we are developing, we will correct what we need to correct. We've done that. Personally, I've done that. While developing a mobile app, I didn't disturb the designer. Let's put it that way. Designer created the basic things. Then I went ahead and, in fact, the design and the final implementation was quite different. So, but lean mindset says your design, get it right. Your designer should be able to identify, even when you, as maybe a project manager or a CTO, is suggesting, you know what, add this, add that. Why don't you tweak this like this and tweak this like that? Tweak this like this, tweak this like that. You, as a designer, should be able to say, no, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. That do not work. Anyways, that's quality assurance on all levels. Then we have receiving customer feedback. Now, there is a term that customers are always right. Well, Vusi will tell you customers are king. Yeah. So this receiving customers feedback is a blend of the both of them. Customers are right in the sense that they are the ones feeling the brunt of your product. Some people do not use the products they produce. Customers are the ones using it. So if customer is complaining about something in your product, there is a reason. You have reasonable cause to investigate and try and make the experience for your customer better. So accept customer feedback, identify if what they are asking is feasible, because some customers can ask wild things. If what they are asking is feasible, why not implement it as soon as possible? Because one of the things that gives businesses edge is speed. So identify and implement. Now, the next thing we have here is empowering your team to think like owners. I mentioned something earlier when I was talking about the design, that even when a project manager suggests a feature, or a CTO suggests a feature, your designer should be able to say, no, this will not work. This should not work. This will not work. You know, because you have everybody in the team. Take note, we are not talking of anarchy. We're talking of everybody having this mindset of, this is my product. Because this is my product, this is a product that I will use. I will go outside and tell people that I built this product. Therefore, I cannot afford to put defective or substandard things in this product. So you need to empower your team. Everyone needs to have this ownership mentality, because if what you have are, how do I put this nicely? If what you have are people that just show up for work, yeah, you produce a product, you produce something, but it won't be as good as the next company that their products are powered by people with ownership mentality. All right. So that's that. Then the next thing we have here is team bloat. So this one is quite tough. This one is quite tough because we we as business owners, we don't really like to let people go. It's a very it's a very bitter taste. It leaves a very bitter taste in your mouth. It's a very sour experience. However, as a business owner, even as an individual, you should be willing to make tough decisions. You should be willing to take big decisions. Because, as I said here, team bloat leads to the downfall of a business. Earlier on, I mentioned something that you are starting a time tracking app, you are building a time tracking app. You do not need to have five developers, two designers, and all that, because I was exaggerating. However, there are, there are times that actually do this. People actually do this. So there is this there is this concept that a a startup growth company called Slidebin. There's this concept they propagate. You should not have more than four people in your team before you get up to, I think, $10 million in revenue. Yeah, that's a very powerful concept. So it may not necessarily apply to everyone in every context. However, the principle is powerful. What this is in line with this lean mindset that we're talking about. So you should have the barest or the minimum viable team for a product. The minimum viable team for a product. So if your team can function with just one developer, fine. If your team can function with just one designer, completely fine. If your team can function with one marketer, fine. You don't have to have the entire structure just to feel like a business. As a matter of fact, you don't even need to have an office. Thank God for smart tech that has helped businesses operate remotely. You don't even need to have an office. If you have other employees or co-founders, you can meet up in a specific place, then work and work and work till you produce that product, till you generate that revenue. Is when you have revenue, not just revenue, but profit. Is when you have profit that you can afford to have a lot of people in your team. Okay, so very important, very very important. We are exceeding our time for this webinar, so let's move on to the key takeaways. Now, what are the key takeaways? We've been talking for over 30 minutes now. What are the key takeaways in this from this webinar? Number one, audit your business and identify unnecessary waste. Audit your business and identify unnecessary waste. I don't want to go over it again, but we've mentioned that a lot of times. You need to be able to self-reflect. You need to be able to go in and do this auditing. After this slide, I'll talk about recommendations, tools that you can use, smart tech that you can use for this lean mindset. Now, audit your business and identify unnecessary waste. Audit your team and shrink it down to the minimum viable team, which is what we just talked about in the previous slide. Shrink it down to the minimum viable team. You don't need to have the entire 9 yards before you have a company. Just ensure you have profit before you start talking about expansion, scaling. Don't don't scale. Don't scale before don't scale before your time. If you scale before your time, you probably come crashing. Things that that's one of the leading cause of failure of a lot of businesses. Businesses run out of cash most of the time is because they have too many people on board. Now, the next thing is listen to your customers and make changes if feasible as soon as possible. Businesses, businesses, take note about Nokia. Nokia was, I don't even need to tell you the story of Nokia. If you've been alive long enough, you know about Nokia. Nokia was like number one in the world. However, well, they basically were not listening, because if they were listening, if they were paying attention, Nokia would have still been number one in the world till now. But they were not paying attention. Although innovation still played a heavy role in that. However, you can still point to the fact that they did not listen to their customers, because what affected Nokia was the fact that the world transitioned into smartphones and they didn't do that on time. And not just that, even when they transitioned into smartphones, they used they bet on the wrong platform for that. So anyways, you can read about Nokia to get more information on that. Listen to your customers, test the feasibility of what they are asking for, then implement it as soon as possible. Then the next thing we have here is leverage on tools to gain insight in your business and make informed decisions. Now it's very easy to just take decisions based on how you feel inside, based on what you've seen. However, the best decisions, the best decisions that the best decisions you can make in a business is a decision that is backed up by data. This is not always the case. Take note. There are edge cases where, let's say, you have an employee that you've identified that is not bringing value into the business, or is not bringing value to the customer. You Data can tell you, oh, this employee is not contributing. Send this employee out. However, if you if you are if you are well informed, not just data. I mean, if you communicate with your team frequently, if you are aware of the culture of your team, you might identify that, oh, this employee makes the culture makes the culture of the business good, makes other employees feel comfortable, makes them feel at ease. This is the employee that people go to when they have issues. The employee, take note, may not be the most skillful, the employee may not be the most knowledgeable, but that employee is the reason everybody is performing at the level they perform. So the point of this analogy is that while making decisions with data is good, also have some level of relationship with your employees, some level of relationship with your environment, so that you can make informed decisions. You can make informed decisions. Now, tools that you can use for all these things is what I will recommend in the next slide. So now, as a business, you typically work on projects or products. Businesses are entities that offer products or services in exchange for financial 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 benefits, yes, of some sort. So you will probably need not probably you would need a way to manage the product you are building, or the services you are rendering. You need a way to manage it, and one of the tools for that is ClickUp. This is a tool that we use personally in our company for managing. This is what we use for managing our projects. So with ClickUp, you can have all your team there. You set up your project, you put up milestones, you put up tasks, you assign it to people, and all that. So ClickUp is good for that. Then for communication, it is fine to use WhatsApp to communicate. It is fine to use any instant messaging platform to communicate as a business. However, using Slack for communication, it gives this impression to both your employees and management that, oh, on Slack here, we are we mean business. Of course, you can discuss things outside business on Slack, I mean via DMs and all that. But Slack gives you the impression that you are in the office. For the fact that you went to the office does not mean you cannot talk about things outside business. I mean, there is this term they call the the coffee stand, the coffee stand. I think the coffee stand discussion, something like that. Cannot remember right now. So what that concept is that there is an employee already at the coffee machine. Another employee gets there and they start gisting, start talking, start talking about, oh, this was how my weekend was. Oh, this was what I saw yesterday. This is what's happening on social media. Now, Slack gives you that impression. However, if you are using something like WhatsApp and every other instant messaging app, that's where you have your regular social discussions. That's where you have status and all that. Platforms like that can lead to distractions. There are times where you open WhatsApp and you forget what you went there for. You just swipe and go to status. So use Slack for communication. Then for documentation, Google Docs. Google Docs is free. Google Docs is available to everyone. Just use it instead of paying for Microsoft Word and the likes. You can use Google Docs, at least for a start. Then maybe when your business gets to a certain level and you decide that, oh, okay, you know what, Google Docs is not giving us everything we need, you can go ahead and switch to something like Microsoft Word. But Google Docs will serve you fine. And ClickUp, as I mentioned, there is a free free tier, so you don't have to pay for anything. Even Slack, you don't have to pay for anything. Then this Odoo. Odoo is an ERP, an enterprise resource planner, so it has everything in it. But you see, I used for time tracking slash CRM. So as a business owner, you should know how to, you know, cut costs. Is one of the skills you should have as a business owner. So with Odoo, if you are using just one application out of the entire suite, it is completely free. Or you see here, I put time tracking slash CRM. So if you want to use it for CRM, yes. If you want to use for time tracking, I think you know what to do. Uh, since it's one app per account for free, I'll leave it there. You can use Odoo for that. Then the last thing we have there is custom software. So you can decide that, you know what, I don't want to use any of these tools. None of these tools meets my demand, especially if you are beginning to grow beyond the level of these tools. Because there is a certain level you get to, even though these tools are free, it's a certain level you get to that you need to pay because the free version is no longer satisfying you. And most of these tools charge per user per month, which can be quite expensive the moment they begin to compound. So if you decide that, you know what, I just want to build my entire software, my entire enterprise resource planner, ERP, just for me with my branding and everything, yeah, you can look at custom software. And we at Osai Technologies, we do all that. Can create a project management tool, create a communication tool for you, create docs tool for documentation, create time tracking, CRM, and any other tool that you need as a business. So these are smart tech that you can use to make informed decisions. Some of these tools you can use to know the employee that is adding value, the employee that is not adding value. Know you can use to track compliance, you can use to track tax to ensure that you are meeting all the regulatory requirements as a business. So I didn't add accounting software here, but if you make your research, you can find something free online, or at least something. I think this Odoo has accounting, so you can also use Odoo, just accounting for free. And the moment you start growing beyond that level, of course, custom software is there. So we'll move on to the Q&A session with chat. So I'll move on to YouTube and see if there are any questions here. Not seeing any question. So do we have any question? Do we have any question? Do we have any question? All right. So let's see. Okay, not seeing any question. So let me wait for, yes, let me wait for a minute or two. If we do not have any question, I'll go ahead and end this webinar. Okay, so, well, I have some questions here. Maybe I should quickly talk about those ones. So, is is lean about cutting cost? So when you talk about lean mindset, growing a lean business, are we talking about cutting cost? Well, okay, I have another question here as well. How do you empower your team to think like owners? Okay, so let me answer the first question. Is lean about cutting costs? It's not necessarily about cutting costs. It's about offering more value to your customers. So if it will mean cutting costs, fine. However, it's necessarily about adding more value and removing, basically removing anything that will prevent you from adding value to your customer. And the truth is, the moment you start eliminating waste, it automatically equates to cutting costs. So dropping from 20 teams, 20 members in your team down to 10 members, down and 10 members, that automatically equates to cutting costs. So yeah, it's not about cutting costs, but cutting costs is just a side effect of maximizing value and eliminating waste. Now, the next question we have here is, how do you empower your team to think like owners? That's a very good question. How do you empower your team to think like owners? There is a quote from Simon Sinek. I'll just quote him anyhow because I cannot remember the quote exactly. He says, leaders inspire, leaders don't direct. Great leaders inspire, they don't direct. So, as a team, as a team leader, you should be able to inspire your team to take a decision. For example, you have a common goal. We want to produce a time tracking app. Why do we want to produce this time tracking app? So that's the very first thing. This concept is also from Simon Sinek, although he admitted that the concept is not originally from him, but I will credit him to him because it's the reason I know this concept. So, which is why, asking why. So, why are we building a time tracking app? Because we've realized that a lot of businesses, especially remote businesses, they do not, there's this anxiety. There's this anxiety that goes with remote owners that they think, are my employees truly working? Are they justifying the payments, the salary that they are receiving? Especially when the owner is not seeing the result of, you know, the employee. So that's that can be a reason to create a time tracking app, not just time tracking app, but activity tracker. In fact, because we've identified the why, we've identified two features now: time tracking, activity tracker. So it means you can build this app now, would be able to track how, when the employee starts working, be able to track the activities the employee is doing on the device, on their device, be able to track it. Then at the end of the day, the business owner will be able to see it. Now, once you have your why, you communicate it to your team members. Okay, this is why we are doing it. This is why we are doing this. Then you let them know that however we want to get there, however you as a team member want to get there, it's up to you. But this is what we want to do. This is why we want to do it. If you are traveling from, let's use a place in Nigeria. You are traveling from Lagos to, say, Ibadan. Let's say University of Ibadan. If you are traveling from Lagos to University of Ibadan, that's just a destination. How you get there is another thing entirely. So, as a business owner, if you want to instill this ownership mentality, give your team the destination, but do not direct them on how to get there. Everyone should be able to solve problems, everyone should be able to contribute, and nobody should feel, make everyone feel valued. Nobody should feel like they are the least in the team, or um their opinions do not matter, or their opinions are not valued. So these are the three things: give them the destination, do not direct them on how to get there. They should be able to find problems and solve it themselves. Of course, you can You can help if they beckon on you. However, do not be eager to offer help. They should be willing to ask, and it's not every time you should render that help. They should be able to solve problems themselves. Then the final thing, make everyone feel valued. No one should feel like their opinions are not heard. No one should feel that like their opinions do not matter. So that is how you instill ownership mentality. Now, how do you okay, yeah, how do you empower your team to think like owners? Because many employees are only concerned about their salary at the end of the month. Okay, I think I've answered that. So the next question is, I don't know if I answered that. If I did not answer it, well, let me know. So the next question there is, what are the things a startup business owner needs to take into consideration before starting a business? Very good question. What are the things you need to put in place, you need to consider before starting a business? Number one, how will you make money? How will you make money? This is the very first thing, because you see, when a business does not have money, that business is just counting down to when it will go bankrupt. So, number one, how will I make money as a business owner? Then, number two, you need to consider, should I quit my day job, or should I just do the business by the side? Now, this decision is entirely up to you. However, if I am advising, do not quit your day job yet, especially if your savings is not large, because business runs on money. So, first of all, you need to think of how you make money, then where will the money come from? So, is it going to come from your savings, or will you be working with another business and using the salary to finance this business? So, those are the two basic things you should consider. Then, who do I need that can assist me in running this business? You know, there are some businesses that you can run yourself, but if you are considering working in another place while running your business, the workload can become so much pretty quickly, especially if your business is growing very fast. So you can decide, okay, the moment my business starts growing, who can I trust to work with me to ensure that this business grows well and this business succeeds? So you need to consider that. Then, number three, what if it fails? What if the business is not successful? What then? What if the business is not successful? What then? So these are the three things you need to consider. Okay. Yeah. So I think we have overshot our time here. This is 10:56 according to my time. So if there is any other question, you can just drop it maybe in the comment section after this live stream is over. Then we'll curate it and respond underneath. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your time. I hope you've learned something that you can apply to not just your business, but to your life in general. So, thank you, everyone. God bless you. And the next time we'll see, I hope you would be in a better place than where you were when you watched this. So, thank you very much.